Kazakhstan. Good choice. Kazakhstan is in the middle of Central Asia. For a long time, it's been popular amongst locals and visitors from other parts of Asia and Russia, and it's starting to catch the attention of people from other parts of the world as well. And it caught ours. We added it to the list of lesser known ski destinations we wanted to visit, and we got to spend a few weeks exploring Kazakhstan's ski resorts, finding out what skiing Kazakhstan is like. So in this video, we're going to set out to answer all the questions we had before we got here, all about skiing in Kazakhstan and visiting some of the resorts here. We're coming at this from the perspective of intermediate skiers just looking for somewhere new to explore. Be able to answer some of the questions we had before we came. But if we don't, we've got a blog article about this as well, which will hopefully answer any questions you do still have after the video. Otherwise, let us know in the comments if you've got another question. So the first question is pretty obvious. Is skiing any good in Kazakhstan? And it's one we definitely had before we got here. In Kazakhstan, it's not the first place you think of when you think about skiing, and skiing is not the first thing you think of when you think about Kazakhstan. You probably think about this flat, endless steppe, but you probably don't think about skiing. So it is a steppe, and a lot of it is pretty dry and flat, but in the northeast and in the south, there are these mountain ranges, as well as these long, cold winters. It's about 9 o'clock. It's negative 24. Feels like negative 26. I don't know if there's a big difference there. Which make conditions here pretty great for skiing. So in the south, you've got the Zylisky Altai mountains, and in the northeast, you've got the Altai range. Both of them provide some pretty fresh, pretty interesting new terrain for skiers and snowboarders. In addition to that, you've got these long, cold winters that start as early as December and go through till as late as April. Even though it's not the snowiest region, once it does snow here, the place is pretty snow sure and it can retain that snow for a long time. So as a result of those favorable conditions, Kazakhstan became a bit of a winter sports hub under the USSR, and they built a lot of infrastructure here. And since they gained independence, they've begun to really build that infrastructure up and really become a world-class skiing destination. And of course, as more and more people take notice of Kazakhstan and continue to come here, so does the infrastructure and the amenities and the facilities and the culture around skiing develop year on year. What can you expect coming to Kazakhstan as a skier or snowboarder? If you've never spent any time in the former USSR states, then it's probably going to be a little bit different to what you're used to. If you've been skiing in Western Europe or North America, Australia, Asia, then you're probably going to notice some differences. But you're also going to find probably a lot of similarities. Kazakhstan has one world-class resort called Shymbulak, and then it has a series of smaller resorts and ski stations that are set up with individual chairlifts or snowcats or snowmobiles to take advantage of some of the backcountry and off-piste terrain here. So whether you're looking for a traditional ski resort experience or you're looking to take advantage of some of the far-flung terrain here, Kazakhstan's got you covered. One of the big draw cards about skiing here is definitely the price. So you're looking at 15 to 20 bucks a day for lift passes. If you're renting gear, that's also about $20 a day. Food and drinks, even on the mountain, are very affordable by comparison to Western standards, and accommodation's cheap as well. So a huge draw card of coming to Kazakhstan is definitely the price. That differential also carries over to the off-piste stuff. So you can hire a guide for a day for $150. You can rent snowmobiles, get a ride on a snowcat, even do heli skiing for like $800, which is as cheap as it's ever going to get. So one of the big parts about skiing here is definitely the affordability. When it comes to ski parade, that culture hasn't really caught on in Kazakhstan. So if you're here for the after party or just as much for the bars as you are for the slopes, then Kazakhstan might not be your best bet. That's not to say there aren't bars and there aren't things going on and you can't have a good time, but you're not going to have that ski off the mountain straight into a all-night party that you might find in some more party-orientated regions. So I'm going to talk about the Shymbulak resort in a second, but before that, I might talk a little bit about Almaty. If you're coming to Kazakhstan for their famous Shymbulak resort. It's in the south, and the gateway to Shymbulak is Almaty. Almaty is known as the southern capital of Kazakhstan. It's one of the biggest and most developed cities in the country, and it's an awesome place to experience, even outside of skiing. So if you're coming for skiing in Shymbulak, you'll probably come through Almaty, and it's even a great place to base yourself while you ski at Shymbulak. The mountain is probably 45 minutes to an hour away, but there's lots of good connections with public transport and even with private transfer. So it can be a very good place to base yourself if you're skiing for a little while in Shymbulak. The town itself, filled with restaurants, bars, some cultural things to do, some churches to go and look at, some tours you can take. It's very comfortable and very affordable. So highly recommend staying in Almaty, at least for a small time, if you're coming to ski in the south of Kazakhstan. There are heaps of really great hotels and Airbnbs, and we'll also leave a couple of those recommendations in the comments down below this video. If you're needing to get around Almaty or you're needing to get from Almaty to the ski fields, you've got two really good options and really affordable options. The first is the public bus network is really, really good.
You gotta make sure you have the exact change to get on the bus.
The second super easy and affordable way to get around is Yandex. Yandex is this part of the world's answer to Uber, and it's really affordable. The cars aren't the greatest, but it's a really reliable and affordable way. You can get anywhere in the city for a couple of bucks. So recommend those two ways for getting around in Almaty and traveling from Almaty to the ski fields. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Shymbulak Resort. This is Kazakhstan's premier resort, and if you're looking for on-piste skiing, this is where you find it in Kazakhstan. It's not the biggest resort in the world. It's probably got about 20 kilometers of groomed trails, and it's got trails of varying degrees of difficulty for beginners through to advanced, and it's also got some off-piste areas where more advanced skiers can test themselves a little bit through the trees and through some different terrain. It's got a fairly modest collection of lifts, but the lifts are all modern and fairly fast. It's got a gondola, a couple of combination chairlift gondola lifts, and a couple of just chairlifts, and then a few drag lifts and magic carpets and things to transport people pretty efficiently all over the park. Facilities are more than enough for the amount of people that come here. So during the week, you'll find the place is very uncrowded. You shouldn't have to queue for chairlifts. And then on the weekends, the crowds build up a little bit and you might have a short wait at the bottom gondola. And after that, people disperse pretty quickly. There's also a pretty good ski park offering some different challenges for people practicing their freestyle skiing or freestyle snowboarding. There are heaps of restaurants, bars and cafes on the mountain, and the level and the quality of food is really, really good. Definitely comparable to other resorts we've been to. And the price is very, very affordable compared to other resorts, but of course more expensive than back in the city. The mountain has some snowmaking equipment, not a huge amount, but enough to keep it going if they don't get snow for a little while, although generally, as we said before, it's pretty snow sure. There is also a massive ice rink. It's called the Medu Ice Rink, and it's halfway between the bottom of the gondola lift and the start of the resort. It can be a really good, fun way to spend a day when you're not skiing or one evening. There are probably about 10 to 12 cafes, bars, restaurants on the mountain, serving a variety of local dishes like dumplings and soups and noodles, as well as Western classics like pizzas, burgers, all that sort of stuff. So no matter what you're looking for, you'll probably find it. Generally looking at about 3,500 to 10,000 tenge for a meal, which is about $7.50 to $20. And then you can get a beer for between 1,000 and 2,500 tenge, which is about $2 to $5. So again, it's expensive compared to the city, but really affordable compared to other resorts around the world. We talked a little bit about ski après in general in Kazakhstan. So Shymbulak, there isn't a ski après culture as such. And once the mountain closes, generally the bars on the mountain are closing down too, except a couple of bars in the local hotels, but they don't really get this big after ski party. If you do want to do that, you need to travel back to Almaty, about 45 minutes away, and then find a bar or find a party there. But it's not that ski to party culture that you can find sometimes in other destinations. In general, most of the accommodation for Shymbulak does happen in Almaty, where you're going to find a bigger range and probably a better price for accommodation, but that comes with the transfer every day, 45 minutes each way. So if you really want to stay in the mountain, you definitely can. There's a variety of hotels and chalets that you can book. and there's a couple of really cool options. So there's an eco hotel right at the top pass where you're staying right on the top of the mountain. You can ski down in the morning. We tried to stay there, but it was booked out when we were there. And there's a couple of other cool hotels on the mountain. So again, check out our full blog for all the details on that, or check the comments below and we'll leave a couple of links to really nice hotels on Shymbulak mountain. Okay, let's move on to some of Kazakhstan's other resorts. So Shymbulak's the main one. It's the main mountain in Kazakhstan, but we'll talk about some smaller resorts near Almaty, and then we'll move on to a couple of resorts in the north near Astana and skiing the Altai out to the northeast. So the first resort near Almaty, or the first other resort near Almaty, is the Shymbulak ski resort. It's a much smaller resort than Shymbulak. It has a handful of lifts and a handful of runs, and it's probably not going to keep you busy for a long time. But if you've been skiing Shymbulak and you want to check it out just for a day or two, it can be a nice change of pace. It's only 40 kilometers away from the city. It's got everything you need. It's got the lifts and a couple of hotels, so you can stay there overnight for a weekend if you want to try something new. Then about 25 kilometers from Almaty, you've got Oy Karagi, and that's another small ski resort. It's located in a really nice picturesque gorge. It's got a couple of chairlifts, and again, not a huge amount of variety in terrain and trails, but enough to keep you going for a little bit, give you a bit of a break from Shymbulak if you've been there a couple of times. And then finally, you've got Pioneer Park. So this is a tiny little resort. Basically, it's just the one lift and you can spend an afternoon there. It's nice and close to Almaty, just 25 kilometers away. If you're staying in Almaty and looking to get off-piste, there are heaps of guides that can take you from Shymbulak or from one of the other mountains nearby into the backcountry. So there's heaps of cool untracked snow for you to get involved in here. So just find a local guide and they can organize a single day or a multi-day trip for you quite easily. Okay, let's talk a little bit about skiing the Altai. So this is a big draw card for skiers that come to Kazakhstan and want to get involved in the serious powder that comes in the northeast. So the Altai Mountains are found in the northeast of the country where it meets Mongolia, Russia, and China. And on the Kazakh Altai, on the Kazakh side of the Altai, there's some really great ski terrain to be found for those people willing to venture a bit further off the beaten path. So the gateway to the Altai is the city of Oskamen, and it is a short flight or a long train or bus ride from either Astana, the northern capital, or Almaty, the big city in the south. Once you get to Oskamen, you're going to need to organize private transfers to get you to where you're going, so one of the smaller ski satellite resorts. The best way to do that is probably to ask your accommodation to help you tee it up, because it can be a little bit difficult finding those services if you don't speak Kazakh or Russian. The largest resort in the area is called the Altai Alps Ski Resort. It's just a small resort. It's got like 4 lifts, a handful of runs. It's got ski rental. It's got hotels and cafes as well. And you can enjoy that for a couple of days, but it's also a really good base to get out into the Altai and do some backcountry skiing. Ritter town is the town which has a few ski stations nearby it, and it's where you're going to want to head if you're looking to do some of this backcountry stuff. Ritter Hut is one resort. It's a simple ski hotel and they do cat skiing from the hotel. Stardust Camp is another. They've got a small base, 1 chairlift, and then they use snowcats again to get around. And the last one's called Edelweiss. It's another small hotel, simple ski base with a lift and snowcat transfers. So 3 different ski bases that you can have a look into, and all of them offer some sort of backcountry adventures. The other town that offers access to backcountry Altai is Zhirinovsk. Nearby, there's the Oryol ski resort, and they've got a chairlift and they've got access to some of that backcountry. So that's the other option in the Altai for doing some backcountry skiing. Okay, the last thing we're going to talk about in this skiing Kazakhstan video is the little bits of skiing that are available outside Astana. So there's nothing really close to Astana, but there are a few resorts a bit further away. So if you find yourself in the north and you're looking to get away for a weekend and do a bit of skiing, there are a couple of options. The first one's called Almaty, and it's about 300 kilometers northwest of Astana, and it's basically 1 lift, 5 runs, and it's just something to do for a weekend. If you want to take the drive out there, you're probably going to want to stay overnight. Otherwise, it's going to be a 600 kilometer round trip. do a bit of skiing, and come back to the city. Nurtau is another small ski resort, and this one's about 280 kilometers to the north of Astana. And again, it's got a chairlift, it's got a hotel, some basic cafes and ski rental. If you're into cross-country skiing, Lesnaya Baza, again, I'm trying my best with the Kazakh names of these places. It's a cross-country complex, 250 kilometers north of Astana. 300 kilometers to the east of Astana is Snowflake. It has a local name as well, but I can't pronounce it. It is a small hill, basically just enough for kids to sled on or maybe practice skiing on for the first time. It's near Ekibastuz and probably only worthwhile if you're in the area or just wanting to muck around on skis for a couple of hours. Finally, out to the east, like 400 kilometers out to the east, near the Bayanal Range, is another resort called Muzea Shoki, and that's a really small resort as well, and probably, again, not worth the effort unless you're in the area anyway. So Astana's, it's pretty slim pickings, but Almaty's not very far away by plane, or taking a bigger, longer trip out to the Altai could be worthwhile. So that's about it for skiing Kazakhstan. As you can see, the major resort is Shymbulak in the south near Almaty, and it has enough runs to keep you going for a short ski vacation. And then there's some really great opportunities for backcountry and free riding outside of Shymbulak and in the northeast in the Kazakh Altai. Hopefully we've answered any questions you had about skiing in Kazakhstan, but if you do have more questions, please check out the blog, which we'll link below. And if that still doesn't answer your questions, let us know by leaving us a comment on the website, a comment here, or dropping us an email, or just let us know what your experience skiing in Kazakhstan was like. We'd love to hear about it. Other than that, please like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.
Off the beaten path place to come if you're looking to ski somewhere that's not Europe or the United States or Canada. A lot colder though.